Welcome to the Armchair Coaching Podcast. This is Coach Sheffer. I am the offensive line coach at Brentsville District High School in Nokesville, Virginia. And we have another great guest tonight. But before I introduce him, really quickly, if you're watching this on YouTube, hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. It's going to help us grow this community that this coaching community that we're looking forward to growing. If you want to listen to it on podcast form, we're available on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, as well as others. I will list all of those down below in the description. So tonight's guest, Coach runs the Southeast Wing T Spread and Defensive Clinic, as well as being the head coach of Dublin High School in Dublin, Georgia. If you are on Twitter, you probably have heard of him before, and you're probably following him if you're listening to me right now. This is Coach Roger Holmes. Coach, thank you for joining us tonight.
Hey, it's my pleasure, man. It's the middle of a football season where all the unknowns are out there. We were just talking before the show. We got hit with a positive last week, so we're on a 14-day quarantine. I don't really know how to act, but I really appreciate you taking time to have me on.
I appreciate you agreeing to come on, Coach. And so we're just going to jump right into it. Something that I ask every guest that I have, because I just love hearing everybody's story, right? Every coach has a unique story. So could you tell us your coaching journey? Basically, how did you eventually end up to where you are now?
Well, I played my high school football. I grew up in the state of Tennessee. I played my high school football at Westmoreland High School, which was a small single-A school in northern middle Tennessee, just north of Nashville. We put the wing T offense in during an open date, the very basic parts of it, during my sophomore year. Went on to win 17 games in a row before we lost one. So they hooked me at a young age as a high school quarterback. I left there. I went and played my college football at Middle Tennessee State University. I left Middle Tennessee State, and I went back to Westmoreland as an assistant coach back to my high school, who to this day, now I graduated in 1977, but to this day, they're still running the wing T offense there at that school. So I went back there. I was like a lot of young coaches. I had dreams. I had goals. I wanted to be a head football coach. And I had set my goal to be a head football coach by the time that I was 30 years old. I got out of college at 22. I went back, as I said, to Westmoreland. I worked there for 2 years under some very good coaches. But there was this one individual that I knew was the wing T guru, and his name was Herschel Moore. And Coach Moore was the head coach at Beach High School in Hendersonville, Tennessee. And I left and went to Beach High School after 2 years to be Coach Moore's defensive coordinator, as well as I coached on both sides of the ball. And I had the opportunity to learn from one of the best for the next 7 years, working with Coach Moore there at Beach High School. He retired. They made me the head football coach there. I was the head football coach at Beach for 11 years. And the school, when we took that program, had a losing record for its history. We were able to get the school above 500. We were able to get them to the state semifinals. We were able to get that football team to a place where they won their first region championship in the largest classification. During that time, I kept reading and hearing about the money that coaches were making in the state of Georgia. And I was hearing things about the Hope Scholarship, which gave your children the opportunity, if they had B averages, to get free tuition and free books to any state university. So I started looking for the opportunity to get into the state of Georgia, more or less, to be quite frank with you, for a financial advantage for my family. After trying for 4 or 5 years, I finally landed the job at at Dublin High School. And we came in, and Dublin was a 4-6 football team the year before I got here. They were a football team that had some history and tradition, but it had kind of gone downhill. They had not made the playoffs in 4 years. We came in, and actually the story goes, I got hired the last week of June. Most of the time coaches are hired in February, and they did hire a new coach. The third day of spring practice, they had 11 kids at spring practice, and the coach went in and put his keys on the desk and went back to Florida. So they were kind of in a bind, and they gave me the opportunity and gave me the job. We went in, we changed offenses, we installed our wing tee. We went from a 3-4 package to our 4-3, and we changed all the kicking game. And this was starting in the last week of June, and did not know a player, did not know a soul. And I coached coaches. Coaches went to the practice field in the evenings and coached players. And that football team finished the year. We lost the state championship game, and we finished 14-1. So I have remained in Dublin, Georgia. I'm starting my 19th year there right now at Dublin High School, and very proud to be the head football coach of Dublin.
That was a great story, Coach. I hope one day that I'm able to stay at a school for as long as you have, and be able to build a program like you have. I mean, even from Virginia, I've heard of your program. So that's pretty phenomenal, to be honest. So the next question that we've got here, could you take a moment to describe your coaching philosophies and leadership styles, and where did you think that these came from?
Well, I think from a coaching philosophy standpoint, I try to approach things and everything from this is a business. This is a business in how you work with your employees. It's a business in allowing your employees to handle the duties that need to be done. I think as a head football coach, I mentioned a minute ago, part of my responsibility is to coach coaches. They have to know what we're looking for. They have to know what we're expecting, or what I'm expecting and what I want to be able to see. You also have to be very precise and clear with your athletes on what your expectations are and what you're going to put up with and what you're going to tolerate. And at the end of the day, we want our young men to have fun, but we don't have a lot of rules in our program. They're pretty simple. Number one, do not do anything that's going to embarrass our team, our school, your family, or yourself. Just stop that. Those 4 things cannot happen. Number 2, if you lie to me, you're off the team. If anything is stolen out of our field house, you're off the team. And the last rule we have is if you're going to miss practice for whatever reason, and I don't have a voicemail on my phone or you don't talk to me directly, you will not play on Friday night. So it doesn't matter if it's the start. We have some non-negotiables. Now, let's be real. Every young man you have on your football team, your assistant coaches, and you yourself as the head coach, you're going to have a mess up every once in a while. And you've got to deal with mess ups and understand. So when you look back and think about what our values, our program is built on, it's basically doing the right thing and holding and being held accountable to the rest of your teammates.
Well, thank you for that. Now, I have seen on Twitter, people have mentioned your clinic a lot. Obviously, with COVID, it might be a little bit different this year, but a lot of people are mentioning it as one of the best wing tee gatherings out there, and that's saying something. So can you kind of describe to the listeners how that all got started?
I mentioned my first year in Georgia. Okay, so we come to Georgia, and I'd had the opportunities to work for Herschel Moore, and Coach Moore's wing tee system was and still is, with the things that we've taken from him. It is without question the most versatile wing tee offensive system that's ever been created. And I'm not taking credits for that. That was Herschel Moore's system. Now, obviously, we have had to continue to tweak as defenses change, as philosophies change. So the system that we have is very unique. When I first got to the state of Georgia, the number one high school offense at that time that teams were running was the Delaware Wing T. And the Delaware Wing T, they had a camp at West Georgia College where they came down every year. And there are still great Wing T teams out there that are 100% Delaware disciples. If you don't do it exactly the way Delaware said do it, then you can't do it. Well, ours is completely different. Delaware blocks the buck sweep one way. We block the buck sweep because of the variations and the terminology that Coach Moore put together in his original system. Our buck sweep is blocked 4 different ways. So we have versatility to everything that we do. So when we got to Dublin my first year, and all of a sudden people are in Georgia, they're not running jet sweep. They're not running all the unbalanced formations and the tackle trap series with midline, and none of that was part of the wing T that was going on in Georgia. So we have a great deal of success. And you know how our coaching philosophies are with everybody. I started getting multiple phone calls about, Coach, will you sit down with me and my staff and go over what you guys are doing? And it felt great doing that. But what it turned into was I was spending 6 or 7 weekends during the off season sitting at the field house with different coaches from different schools every week going over what we were doing. Coach Moore was still alive and he was still able to get to Georgia and so on and so forth. So I said, hey, let's just have a wing T clinic. So I put the clinic together. It was in a one room, the only room in a hotel that was large enough to have a clinic in Dublin, Georgia. And it wouldn't hold but like 110 people in that room. So we started the clinic. And after the second year, it was not large enough to host it. So we moved the clinic then to one of our vocational colleges in town, which has meeting space for up to 5,000 people. Different rooms, the drop-down ceilings, everything you want to have a clinic. And when we did that, we said, we're going to expand our clinic. And number one, we needed to expand the clinic because the cost went up astronomically when we had to rent that facility. So what we did was we started 3 offensive rooms. We had a traditional under center wing T room, okay, and that was a Friday, Saturday, where there were 16 hours of traditional wing T clinic in that Friday, Saturday. Then you had the Auburn, Clemson, the people that were running the wing T, but they were doing it out of the gun. So we had a hybrid gun, separate wing T room. Again, there's 16 hours of lectures over a 2-day period on gun hybrid wing T. So all of a sudden, you've got 32 hours in one clinic session devoted to people that are running wing T. And then, because some people were again wanting to cross over, we also have a spread offensive room. So there were 3 rooms, all of them with 16 hours. Our clinic got to the point where our coaches loved the clinic. And I go speak for the Glaziers and love it. Glazier clinics are phenomenal. But if you're a wing T person, when if I go to speak for the Glaziers, you drive up, you go in on Thursday night, you're there Friday, Saturday, Sunday morning. You're paying for hotel rooms for 3 nights, and you got 8 hours of wing T. You come to our clinic, you pay for a hotel room for 1 night, and you got 16 hours of wing T. So for somebody, it was a niche clinic. It's what you wanted. So we don't have the bright lights in the big city and coaches skipping out on lectures and running out on the town. It is a X&O football clinic. And then my coaches that brought their staffs yearly, they started saying, Coach, if you will include defensive lectures, Coach, we'll start bringing our whole staff to this clinic because we get more from this clinic than we do going to the mega clinics. So that's what they wanted. That's what we did. Thus, now the wing tee, spread, and defensive clinic. We don't talk about kicking game at our clinic. Not that it's not very important, but you know what you're going to get, and it's pretty neat. We feed everybody. We have a social for everybody on Friday night where we give them all the cold drink that they want. And we feed them good. You come back on Saturday, and at lunchtime, we feed everybody a nice barbecue lunch. And so you're not spending money on meals unless you want to. And so it's just worked out very well. We do it in March, kind of in between the winter sports and the spring sports starting. We get it in after the glacier clinics have finished. And it's generally right before the colleges start having their spring clinics. It's something I enjoy doing. You wouldn't believe how much work it is. But then I had a lot of my coaches, for example, they're all over the country. And it's hard to get to Dublin, Georgia from past a 6-hour drive, because the truth is you basically, if you're going to fly in, you got to fly to Atlanta, rent a car, and drive 2 hours. So what we've started doing the last 2 years is now you can register for our clinic and receive it virtually sitting right there in your office. So we boom each room out, okay? Then people can register for our clinic and now watch our clinic from their own office and not pay travel expenses or anything else.
Well, I hope you guys are still able to do it this year, because if that's so, I might actually have to sign up for it and watch it from home, because even from Virginia, driving to Georgia is a little difficult, especially since I have 2 young kids and
I got you.
A
But
wife.
you know what, Coach? This is amazing. Now, we also moved our clinic a few years ago. We also started having one in Chicago.
Okay.
Right outside of Chicago. And we tried it for 4 years. To be quite frank with you, what I wanted to do is I'm getting close to that retirement age. And I would love to be able to stay active in this game of football and share the things that Coach Moore taught me and that I've learned. And I kind of wanted to get 3 of these clinics going across the country. And when I retired, we'd have our 3 clinics across the country and, and go with that. But to be quite frank with you, it did not really go and continue to grow every year. But Coach, we average between Chicago and Georgia, I've had coaches attend our wing tee clinic from 38 different states. It's pretty neat. So people have had coaches from California, all the way out New York. People come from a long way. If you're a wing tee guy, you're not going to get any more better information than you can find here. So,
man, I'm a lot of my coaching staff knows me. We don't run wing tee at the school that I'm at, but they know that I'm a wing tee guy at heart. Kind of like you, we ran it at my high school and we were very successful with it at my high school. So it just kind of got ingrained into me. And if I ever become an offensive coordinator, that's going to be the first one that I look into is the wing tee. Whether or not it's the spread or under center, either one. I love both of them. I don't want to be like too much of a homer though, because I used to write a blog and it was titled "Obsessed with Offense" because I love all offense.
mm-hmm.
I'll watch air raid. I'll watch what Oklahoma does versus Clemson and Auburn. I'll watch everybody. But wing tee is definitely where the heart is. Unfortunately, there's no college football teams that are on TV that really run the wing tee, unless you kind of include Army in that, because they run a little bit of belly.
If you had your TV on today, one of the guys that's dabbling in it, and they're actually, when you watch them, I watched them, they're running some of the belly series, the jet series, and the down series, Tulane University. They were running it today on TV. They ran it a lot last year. Willie Fritz, option guy, and now he's mixing in some of the wing tee. But the truth of the matter is you will never hear one of them say they're running wing tee because it's not the flavor of the month.
Right. It's almost like a death sentence for a coach nowadays. unfortunately. So we kind of talked a little bit about college football there. So on this podcast, one of the other series that I work on is called Program Profiles, where we talk about different college teams and we talk about why we think they're good or why we don't think they're good, from more of a non-expert perspective. What are your thoughts? This is a question I ask just about everybody we talk to. What are your thoughts on how the different college conferences are handling the pandemic or have handled the pandemic so far?
I understand the fact of the safety, no different than we're dealing with in our high school football. I believe, as much as this is an opinion, this is not anything I know. So I think a lot of it has to do from a political end, unfortunately, how some of this stuff is being handled. However, it is hard to say that safety is 100% your top factor and not sit everybody on the side. I had some people, this conversation the other day. COVID-19 is a risk. So is depression. There are a lot of young men that are out there that are dependent upon this game. This is what keeps them going. It's what keeps everything with them going. The rich, cold, hard reality is on the collegiate level, without the financial support and backing that programs are able to bring in from the football program, it's going to be really hard for them to, number one, run their whole programs. Number two, live up to the federal mandates that they have based on Title IX. All of those things become a major factor. And so for me, I understand, but there are other problems that come along with not playing.
Yeah, I would have to agree, honestly. I mean, there's a lot of, you take a risk just walking out the door every day, whether or not we had COVID. And so it's hard. It's hard for me, like you kind of said, to kind of justify not playing. I don't want to get too much into the politics, right? Because this is not a political show.
That's not what we're here for.
That's what we're here for. We're here to talk football. So which college teams do you root for? And are there any coaches that you find as an inspiration?
College teams, to be quite frank with you, it kind of goes from year to year with where my young men are playing. So I try to keep up with the programs where our kids from Dublin High School are playing. Now, as I mentioned, I grew up in the state of Tennessee, so I am a Tennessee Vol fan and claim that and am proud to be a Vol fan. But at the end of the day, I am simply a fan. I'm not obsessed with anybody else's team other than my own. But if you call me a fan, I'm a fan of the Tennessee Vols.
This next question, we're going to get back into wing tee football because I can't stay away from the wing tee. And so why the wing tee? You kind of mentioned it before, but why the wing tee, and how do you sell the offense to your staff, players, and then the community?
Those are all good questions, especially as we work toward the end. Number one, our wing tee philosophy is this: we're going to run every series that you can run in the wing tee, and we include in that the midline and the veer. When we start installing our offense, it's all installed. Now, the key to our success every year is based on what our quarterback is capable of doing. If we have a young man that can throw the heck out of it that happens to be our quarterback, but he can't run the option game, then the option game fades away. If we have a quarterback who's a great runner, but he doesn't throw the football very well, and we tend to run more option and we run less passing game. Last year, it was, guys, we won the state championship. We were third in the nation in rushing for high school football teams. We didn't average throwing the football 3 times a game. Now, my starting quarterback broke his leg in week 2. His backup became our quarterback, who was not as well with reading coverages and throwing the football, but he could run the football. So we were able to immediately phase into what our quarterback was able to do. The next thing is this, and this is where the wing T offense has answers. When you do this, I should be able to do this. When you adjust this way, you're giving me something by your adjustment. So with that understanding there, the closest thing to that right now is the spread offense. And it's really closer now once the spread teams started incorporating the RPO. That started giving them answers. And that's what the wing T offense has had since day one. We have the RPO. The bootleg pass is an RPO. It is a designed run or a designed pass, and if you have dropped to take away the pass, it becomes a run. That's an RPO. The system has it all built in. It should not be an offense that you get yourself beat with turnovers. And if your quarterback is not able to run or throw effectively enough to be a difference maker, the system itself will help you to control the tempo of the game, hold on to the football. And my first year in Dublin, when I got here in June, it was explained to our kids this way. I had a kicker that was an all-state kicker, and he went to the University of Georgia. There's no reason for us not to be great in the kicking game. Now, there's no reason that we can't get lined up, get off blocks, fly to the football, and be really good on defense. Man, our offense will improve as the season goes. And we attack the game that way. And like I said, they were 14-1. We did lose in the state championship game that year. But so that offense can revolve around a very mediocre quarterback. The spread offense cannot revolve around a mediocre quarterback. So to me, I can best adapt my system to the style of young man that I have that's playing quarterback. Now, I guess the next question is, how do you convince your kids? It's not too hard for me right now because we've won since I've been in Georgia. Okay, we've had 97 kids sign some form of football scholarship. Now, I'm not saying all D1. Some of them might be in a JUCO. Some of them might be in a D2 school, whatever. But we've had 97 kids get the opportunity to go on and play college football at the next level. When they understand that the reason we have 6 kids last year make first team All-State had more to do with the fact that our football team played in a state championship and was a great football team as opposed to their individual honors. Do I have parents who think that we should do this and we should do that? Sure, who doesn't? If we ran the spread, they'd be mad because we threw it when they thought we should have run it. That goes with the territory, and you've got to be willing to understand that. But, our kids took pride, or they do take pride in being physical and being tougher than the next guy. And the other thing that it allows us to do is, I mentioned controlling the tempo. With so many people wanting to go fast now, and a lot of our kids go both ways. Still play a lot of our kids go both ways. Well, if you're going fast, we're going to be in the huddle. We're going to slow the game down. We're going to cut into the number of snaps that occur on Friday night. Now, if you got 7 kids going both ways, and I do, you're probably going to get a series or two from us in an Indy series where we're lining up in the same formation, but we've got every play with a hand signal and a code word, and we're snapping it and we're going. So we can do anything in our system, but it helps us when we're not quite as good as the other guy we got to line up against.
I like that, because that's basically the argument that I've used in the past. I get a lot of flack on my coaching staff for being like the wing T triple option fan of the group. And they always argue, it was like, oh, well, you can just run the spread, go fast, you'll be just fine. I'm like, well, what happens if, half of our starters on offense are starters on defense and we're going fast? They're going to get tired just from going fast on offense. And I don't know.
All I can tell you is all my years of being a head coach, I've never had a defensive coordinator who was unhappy because it was 3 and out and they were right back on the field all
night. All right. So let's just say you had to choose one. Let's just say you had to choose a favorite wing T series. What would it be and why?
For us, and maybe it because it became a personal thing. Number one, it goes back to our philosophy where I mentioned a minute ago, it's a little bit different than, quote, the Delaware philosophy, okay? I do not put my best running back at fullback, where the Delaware wing T did, to the point that they had to change the name toward the end of their career. That became their tailback because they could not recruit the kid they wanted to play that position and call him a fullback. He wouldn't go to the University of Delaware. But for us, my best running backs are going to play one of those halfback positions. Because, and again, this goes back to philosophy. Big plays happen on the perimeter. Either you break, contain, or you get over the top. Big plays generally do not happen between the tackles. So if I have a player who's big play potential, I want him to be able to get the ball on the perimeter, and there's not a true play in the wing T offense to get the fullback the ball on the perimeter other than throw it to him in the flats. So with that being said, our tackle trap series, the tackle counter series, is what I think probably is our most important series that we have in our system. Because if I'm able to trap you with the fullback trap game, it's because one of your defenders is playing poor technique. That's the only reason you're able to trap somebody, is because he takes an influence and he runs upfield, or they're using a slant technique and the guy's angle is upfield, or he doesn't get his hat in hands and squeeze down. In other words, the only reason you're able to trap a defender is because he's playing poor technique. Well, if he played the poor technique on the tackle trap, on the fullback trap, he's going to do the same thing when we use the tackle trap on the counter. Now, my home run hitter has the ability to pop one up inside. And if he can make the free safety miss one-on-one, we can go to the house. So as far as the traditional wing T series, and then, all of our, I'm going to plug ourselves right here. Probably shouldn't do this, but you can go to Coach Tube, and I have put my 100% complete wing T package on Coach Tube. There's a gentleman, Rick Stewart, who's a pistol wing T guy, and Rick came in and we spent 4 or 5 days putting it all. So everything we do, and when you look at our tackle trap stuff, it's blocked about 20-something different ways, because we're not going to let you take that tackle trap away from us, because that's my best home run hitter, being able to run the ball between the tackles and a chance to make a big play.
You mentioned it before about having how many of your players do you have playing college football, or have had played college football?
It's around 97 since I've in the 18 years I've been here at Dublin High School.
The reason I bring this up is because this is something I've heard it from parents, players. I've even heard it from coaches. People are saying that if you run a wing T or you run a triple option, your kids are not going to get recruited. I've heard that a lot, even from people that I thought I respected. Um, so how would you respond personally to a player or a parent who was convinced that they were not getting recruited because of the wing T offense?
Well, the first thing I would tell them is talk to someone who really knows. Okay. Now, our quarterbacks, I would encourage them to go to a camp and just throw. Let people see how well they throw. But at the end of the day, no college coach is recruiting a player based off of their statistics. There are only 4 statistics that matter to a Division I football coach. Number 1 is what is your height? Number 2, what is your weight? Number 3, what is your 40 time? And number 4 is what is your GPA? If you don't fit the mode of what they're looking for, you can go out and be a 5'8" quarterback and throw for 2,000 yards, and you're not going to get recruited. You can be a 5'5" running back that weighs 155 pounds and go rush for 2,500 yards. You're not going to get recruited. So at the end of the day, what system you're running is not going to keep a player from being recruited. It might be to your advantage. If you played at Dublin and for whatever reason we were not throwing the football a great deal, schools will let you know whether there's any legitimate interest. Coach, I really love your quarterback. I think he's got a chance. We just don't know. You're not throwing the football enough for us to get a true evaluation. Send the kid to camp and let him watch him throw. So if I'm recruiting offensive linemen, I want offensive linemen recruited out of the wing T because they have to pull. They have to block in space. You see more about their athleticism in this offense than any other offense that you'll see. But again, if you're talking about going and playing Division I, Coach, if you're not 6'4", 295, it don't matter. And if you're a wing T guy and they're 6'4", 295 and the kid can pull and move, he's a sure bet to be a Division I player, okay? Running backs, I've had a lot of our running backs sign and play at different levels. Now, the reality of it is you can evaluate my running backs because not only they run, they have to block. So many of the running backs in the spread now don't block anybody. So there's one less evaluation that a college coach has on a kid. Now, like I said, a lot of our kids go both ways. Some of them are being recruited as defensive players, but the fact they see them physically and playing the game the way it needs to be played on offense gives them a chance. So, I've had 3 quarterbacks sign on a Division I level during my time, and we've been running the wing T the whole time. So you got to fit the mold.
This is a question that I just thought up of. I know it's not on the list of questions.
Right.
I'm sorry for throwing a curveball at you. Let's say you do have a quarterback who's a really good thrower. What are some of your favorite passing concepts to add into the wing T?
Additions to the wing T, okay? If you remember what people used to call the universal route, which is the deep dig by the split end, the shallow cross, and the post route behind it, Florida State scheme years ago. But everybody in America started running it. Well, in the wing T offense, in my system, I don't teach a 5 or 7 step drop. Okay. But when we come off of, we teach 3-step drop and we teach throwing on the run with all the play action and sprint out. But when we come off of that buck action, everything that we have is sprint right, sprint left, or three-step passing game. I wanted something in our system that had a launch point that was 7 yards deep right behind the quarterback, like a pro-style guy. So we simply took the thought processes that Florida State was using out of the sprint draw or the I pass, where the fullback kicked the end, you fake the inside zone, and the quarterback drops straight back. Well, we incorporated that into our Buck series, which is very nice. Now it becomes a straight drop back. It's a cut protection, the shallow cross, the deep dig, okay, and the post behind it. Well, that's a cover 3 beater. Well, then we turn around and we use the same concept where the tight end and wing arc, and you've got the wing up the seam, or excuse me, the tight end up the seam, the wing bending 18 into the boundary, the fullback in the flat coming off the same action. And now you read the half field safety. If he stays, now you high-low the corner. So that's our Cadillac flood scheme. That's more of a cover 2 deal. And you know, you'd have to really get into our system to understand, but our whole passing game that we do, the routes change based on the coverage, like the old run and shoot. Okay, I'm listening and taking what they were doing, and I thought, man, this is phenomenal if you were always running the best route beater against a particular coverage that you were seeing. But because all we do in the wing T, and you're running midline and veer, we don't have the time to really dig into all the intricacies. So my receivers are sight adjusting routes based on coverage and this and that. Well, what we do, we build the coverage into our snap count. So whatever the quarterback perceives that coverage to be, that is into our cadence. And now the routes, everybody's on the same page. Are we running routes to beat 2 high or 1 high looks, essentially? So that's kind of maybe getting ahead of what you wanted, but that's what we do.
No, Coach, I mean, that's amazing because I've never thought of that before. And so that's just another thing I've learned from you. So final thoughts, Coach. I'm gonna not take up too much more of your time tonight. A lot of coaches like myself or other coaches out there aren't really coaching right now. We might get a spring season, might not, depends on what happens. Do you have any final words of wisdom for all the other coaches out there?
Well, the number one thing as an older coach for the young guys, I was telling my football players this story the other day when I was probably your age, okay, young guy getting into it. One of the best things that I ever read was if you want to be a head football coach down the road, you better practice being one today. And that stuck with me as a young football coach. You know, there are a lot of things now that duties and things that have to be done that a head coach does that an assistant coach don't want to take the time to do. But there are things that have got to be done. You need to know what offense you're going to run when your day comes. You need to know what defense you're going to do when your day comes. Because if you're not prepared for it when the day comes, it passes you over and it's gone. That was the same message I had with my football team the other day. I was telling them about my situation and my thought process from what I just told you I heard. I said, now, I'm telling y'all right now, if you're a backup on our football team, act like a starter. Study your film and do exactly what it is that you need to be doing, because sooner or later, you're going to get your shot to be a head coach if that's really what you want to do. And the problem with it is this: if you're not prepared, you're going to be a head coach, but somewhere down the road, you're going to be an ex-head coach and you may never get the opportunity again. So prepare, learn what it is. The next thing I think is the most important is you have to learn loyalty, whether it's to your head football coach and your principal and your superintendent and your administrator. You have to understand loyalty, and you have to understand that you, regardless of the success, We tell our kids all the time, I know I can't be a good coach without them being good players. But I also hope they understand they wouldn't be as good without the coaches that we've got that are teaching them what to do. We're all in it together. We're going to win together and we're going to lose together. And the more success we have, the more things positive for everybody that has anything to do with our program. I'll tell you this and I'll let you go. This is a good one probably to end with. We were fortunate enough a couple of years ago or 3 years ago or something, we were getting ready to play the game that night. And if we won, it would have been my 200th win in my coaching career. And a lady came to interview me from a TV station. And she said, Coach, what do you think has been the thing that's been the most remarkable about your high school coaching career to this point? I said, when I was at Beach High School, I worked for 3 different principals and 2 superintendents. Since I've been in Dublin, Georgia, I've had 7 superintendents and 8 principals. None of them have fired me yet. And what I mean by that is this. There are so many times, if you really want to go and look, a new principal or a new superintendent comes in within 2 years, there's going to be a coaching change because there's somebody out there that they know that they trust and they want to get that guy in their program because in Georgia, if you don't have a good football program, somebody's head's going to roll. You know, so at the end of the day, they've got to understand, and I follow that pecking order. They're my boss. Now I'm going to tell them what I want, and this is what we need. But the minute I can't back them and support them in decisions they have to make, then now again it becomes a trust factor. So as I'm saying, loyalty to the people that you're working for. If you're an assistant coach, the worst thing that you could have said about you from a coach is that, well, yeah, he's all right, but I didn't really trust him. He wasn't real loyal. We were doing this or we were doing that, and he was out telling parents and so on and so forth. He'd be doing something different. So those things to me are probably the most important in getting off and being ready and having a great career.
Well, thank you, Coach. I really appreciate you coming on tonight.
Well, I enjoyed it. I told you I wouldn't mind doing it, and hopefully it'll work, and we'll see what we can get done. If you ever need anything else, let me know, man.
All right. Well, I would love to maybe have you come on again, maybe after your season's over, do kind of like a review of your season and teach me a little bit more wing tee, because I've already learned a couple things from you just from this short little session tonight.
Call me or text me or tweet me or whatever it is. We'll get it done.
All right, I will do. Thank you guys for listening to the Armchair Coaching Podcast. This is Coach Sheffer signing out.